Welcome to this webinar. As Ruth already mentioned, it will be quite interactive, and I will give you a lot of input, but I will wait also for your feedback on certain issues, and I would like to thank you also, the eTwinning team at UN, to give me this possibility to share the first development of the project. We have only started in March 2015 to share the first developments with eTwinning teachers. So that's really great. So I'll give you a short overview about what we are doing in the next hour, and I hope we have enough sufficient time with all this interaction going on, hopefully. So I will try to introduce the topic, which is very complex: technology enhanced teaching competence, and what we understand by it, but hopefully also get some feedback from you on what you think is pedagogical ICT competence or teaching by using ICT. I will then go on talking a little bit about existing digital competence frameworks at European level, but also at national level, for teachers to self-assess their pedagogical ICT competence. And then in the last part of the webinar, I will talk about the MENTEP project and the self-assessment tool which we are developing at the moment in the project. I will present it to you and hope to get some feedback on its content, on parts of its content from you during this webinar and later on if you have. So as I already said, I would like to have your feedback, and after let's say 2 or 3 slides, I always ask you for your opinion, and Ruth will manage this part as well. So either to get some opinion from you if you agree with the statement I give you or not. There will be some specific polls. You can also write your opinion in a chat whenever you think, and there will be also possibility at the end of the webinar to have some comments from you while you raise your hand, and I'll give you the floor to share some ideas in this area. So technology enhanced teaching. So what is it actually? In the project, which started, as I said, in March 2015, we looked at a lot of definitions, but we define it as the proficiency in using ICT in teaching, applying pedagogic and didactic judgment, and being aware of the implication ICT has for the learning process. And this is something, a definition from Diana Lauria from the University of London, who is working with us in the project. And she has published a book, Teaching as a Design Science, which I really recommend to you. It's really worth reading to get more deeply into the topic. But this is, in a way, our working definition for the project, also underpinning the tool we will develop. Why is technology enhanced teaching competence actually important? Maybe I'm talking to the wrong audience here, because you are already involved in using ICT in your teaching. But I would like to give you a little bit the background of why we came up with this project. So, as Ruth mentioned in the beginning, I was involved in a large-scale quantitative study European SchoolNet carried out together with the University of Liège some years ago on how ICT is actually used in schools by teachers and students. It was called a survey in schools, ICT in education, and this survey has revealed that there's a low use of ICT and teaching and learning innovation in the classroom. However, the survey also has revealed that teachers who are more ready to use ICT and feel competent and confident in using ICT makes a positive difference in the learning process and using ICT, even if the ICT, for example, the access or the infrastructure or even the support you have at school is less easy. So we really identified with that study that teachers' digital competence and confidence level can make a difference when using ICT with students in the classroom. You might have come across the latest results from the PISA study, not related to the more subject-specific results, but also the OECD has published results as regards students' digital skills. And this was really covered in the press a lot because it was kind of negative in terms of ICT use, because the study said that students frequently using computers do worse in learning outcomes. So in a way, these findings are not really positive for our area, but on the other hand, the report also shows that when ICT is used moderately, it can actually enhance students' performance. So overall, the report suggests that ICT is linked to better student performance only in certain contexts and only when used in moderation. So all these results, from just like 2 examples I give you, show in a way the importance of the pedagogical use of ICT. So not using ICT whenever and all the time, 24 hours, and for whatever activities, as you already probably know, but when it makes a difference to the teaching and when it can really bring added value to the teaching process. And we also know from the research that ICT can really make a difference in terms of engaging students more into the learning process, in supporting active learning processes, motivation, personalization, or collaboration. So the main questions for us was really how can we improve based on all these results, how we can actually improve teacher readiness and competence in using ICT integrated into pedagogy, and how can we follow up this competence development of teachers in this area. So my first question is based on the kind of broad definition I give you, but also just as you yourself define a digital competent teacher, do you actually think you are a digital competent teacher? If you already think you are good at teaching with ICT?
At least 20 people reply that they are digital competent.
Yeah, that's not so much actually. So we see here there is some need actually to make you feel more competent and confident, at least, because I'm sure you're also underestimating a little bit your skills in that area. But let's look at some of the areas in more depth, and maybe you feel a little bit more positive by the end of the webinar. So what actually would we like to do with this MENTEP project? We would like to develop a self-assessment tool, an online self-assessment tool that can help teachers to progress in this kind of competence. Just to give you a short overview about the partners in the countries involved in that project, because you might be in a country where we have a partner and you might hear about it. So we have ministries of education in Cyprus, Portugal, and Spain involved. We have other public authorities in Finland, Italy, Lithuania, Denmark, which is only observer countries, Slovenia and Cyprus, Norway, Czech Republic, and France. And we have also Greece and Estonia involved with the Teacher Training Institute in Estonia. And yes, European SchoolNet, we are the managing partner, and an organization in Italy who takes care of the field trials as such, because it's an experimentation with schools. We test it, so it's not something that any school can just participate in. We will randomly select schools across these countries to participate in this experiment and to test the tool. So as you can see, we have a good spread of northern, southern, and eastern European countries which will be involved. And the overall aim is, of course, in a European policy context, but also at national level, is really to, with that kind of tested tool and the results we have from it to see how we can increase the number of teachers being able to innovate with ICT on a general level to enhance the uptake of ICT in teaching and learning, but also if teachers will be using, after the project ends across Europe, this kind of tool, will also have on a school level or on a regional level more data on each teacher digital competence, and already directly after the project. And also the project attempts to link the various initiatives in that area that already take place at national level, at the European level, but most of all, it's really to strengthen the professional profile of the teaching profession in that specific area. But now let's come a little bit more concretely to what are actually the characteristics of the self-assessment tool we are aiming to develop. And that's really important because we don't want to come up with something that is completely out of blue. We have looked at existing tools that exist in different countries already, to be it frameworks for teacher competence, be it already quite concrete assessment tools. We would like to develop a user-friendly tool for the teacher that really makes you feel like using it, but also leading you, giving you immediate feedback about your performance or self-assessed performance. And we try to develop a tool that after the end of the project, which is in 3 years, is kind of sustainable in different countries, but also adaptable in countries who want to make use of these tools. And also we aim with this tool to assess the competence in an authentic context of work. And you know best, this is a complex context and it's an ever-evolving field, especially with new demands that are put on you in your everyday context, be it by reforms, be it new challenges, but also in the area of ICT. One of the most important things with the tool is that we want to foster, it's not to compare teachers' competence across Europe, it's really to foster self-reflection and with this tool to give you a tool that allows you to learn, to evaluate your practices, your competences, and to use it as a tool for further learning.
Anja, somebody is asking, when do you think this tool will be available for the other teachers?
So the tool will be only available in, let's say, 3 years. But that's the thing we are now developing. It will be tested in schools in the school year September 2016 for 1 school year. And the tool will be ready in March 2018. So, but as you can already see parts of the tool today, you are in the privileged position even to give us input and to shape the tool a little bit. So if you are really interested in that topic, please come back to me. I have foreseen that also with an email later on. You can really give us feedback on the tool right now in terms of the areas we cover and the way we are going to develop this. But on a broader level, it will be only available in different countries in March 2018. I hope this does not discourage you. It's really an experiment at European level. So the main outcome, yes, and I will add here maybe later on to the slide, it's a new tool with common core that can be used and adapted by countries. The next question I would like from you also by just clicking on the green or the red. Have you ever been actually assessed in your technology enhanced teaching? Has actually somebody looked at what you do in your everyday practice with ICT? Could you give us a short feedback on that?
Can you click again in the green and the red symbol, please? And now the answer is the opposite. So the majority has never been assessed.
Yeah.
And we have around 20 again that clicked on the red symbol.
Okay, so that's actually also quite revealing, because the assessment in that area is really complex and really difficult, and it's no surprise to me that you actually have not been assessed yet. So that's probably, it's also quite difficult for you to position yourself in that area. So that's really interesting, and I hope Ruth takes note of that result. And we go to the next one, because I have lots of questions to you. The other question is actually, would you like to be assessed in that area? I see a lot of yes, of course, thanks in the chat.
But also the majority clicked on the green symbol. So.
Okay, that's good. So you have a positive attitude towards assessment. That's great. Okay. Then we come to the first real poll. We have here a bit more detailed. How would you like to be assessed in the area? Would it be more like that you want to have a tool like we are proposing? Not really clear yet now, but would it be more like that you would like to self-assess your digital competence? Would it be more that you would like some peer assessment, be it in a practical everyday situation, or be it more in an online environment? Would you prefer somebody from the institution, from the school, or from your inspectorates to look at this? Or you don't know the type of assessment you would like to engage with? So can I ask you to take the poll? That would be great. Okay, I see that there is a slight tendency here, 30 people said they would like to be peer assessed, so they trust most the peers to do so. Self-assessment, it's ranking, I think, third, and institutional assessment was the second. That's interesting. So we have a little challenge here, and some people did not give any answer or don't know yet. So that's really interesting. So that's something I will keep in mind, because it shows a little bit that this is a competency that really is embedded in an everyday context, and not at all easy to be assessed. And probably some of you have already done some peer assessment, which is also not such an easy procedure. So all of these assessments, self and peer assessment, have certainly their challenges. And what I can tell you also, that we will have probably within the project also some peer assessment involved, but this is not the core. The core, as I said, is the self-assessment. So thank you for those results. Let's look a little bit more into the self-assessment, which is the main topic for our tool, and what I would like to more go into depth. And I would like to give you a short overview about what already exists in this area, because you might be in a country where such a tool for self-assessment already exists. And at international level, you might have come across the UNESCO ICT Competence Framework for Teachers. That is a framework, and I'm sorry I did not put the links here. I should maybe do that after the presentation, so you could access these frameworks directly. It's a kind of framework that is developed by UNESCO. So it's more like a framework it's more a policy framework on something that is looked at probably by some teachers, but also it serves a lot for decision makers to see how can competencies be described in different areas, less so than an actual practical tool for teachers, I would say. Then a second international framework is the Standards for Teachers, which has been also used in some countries to develop their own national tools, and which has quite concrete levels of competence descriptions. Then at European level, there is the IPPS framework, the DICCOM framework, but it's for the general citizen. That's something that the Institute for Prospective Studies in Seville developed, and it's a quite comprehensive framework that is now used by the Spanish Ministry of Education and in some of the communities in Spain, autonomous communities in Spain, to develop the common framework for digital competence of teachers. And of course, for our project, we also looked at this framework a lot. Then there is a framework that is already in use for schools and teachers in Finland. It's called the OPICA. And I will provide you also with the link to that framework. Likewise, in Estonia, there is an evaluation model for teachers' educational technological competencies, which is based on these ISTE standards for teachers. There is a framework, actually an online tool and a test in Greece, but this is related to training that is given to Greek teachers in this area. And then there's a tool in Norway, which is called a teacher mentor, which I will show you a little bit more in detail now, because we looked at all these frameworks, and what we liked with the Finnish tool and the Norwegian tools is really that they, first of all, there are already assessment tools in practice. They have been used by Norwegian and Finnish teachers. So there's some experience with this tool, but they all have the aim of formative assessment. So based on the results of the tests you get in the framework, you can relate your results to other teachers in your schools. You can see the results and also think of professional development activities in this area. So use it as a tool for reflection on your own digital competence. So here you see a slide that shows you the access the page to the teacher mentor. Some of you might, I don't know, for the eTwinning conference, my colleague also presented that, have already looked into it and tried it out. So this tool is constructed around 4 areas, and we really looked into this for our tool. The first area is around pedagogy and ICT. The second is around digital production. The third around digital communication, and the last one around digital judgment. So if you go to the tool, you are asked to position yourself in each of these areas according to 5 levels. So you will read statements in level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can mark your where you think at which level you are, and then you can save it. And I think the tool takes you like 30 to 45 minutes to go through it, and you get as a feedback you get a spider graph that shows you in which area you are quite strong according to your opinion and your self-assessment, and in which areas you are less competent. Just to come back to the other frameworks, there's no time to go in detail today into these, but if you are interested, the UNESCO level, because each framework, of course, will ask you or will analyze your results according to certain levels. The UNESCO framework is around 3 main levels. It's a quite complex framework, but the first level is like technological literacy, so more or less how you are literate to use certain technologies. The second level is described as knowledge deepening, and the third level is really how you apply this knowledge you have around ICT in your pedagogical practice to create new resources, to create with your students, to engage your students in creation. So here the focus is in creation. If you look at the Spanish model, they have 3 different levels: a starting level, intermediate level, and advanced level. And the Estonian level, which also exists in English, so you can look at that, has 5 levels. So this is just to show you, of course, there's different approaches to how to organize such frameworks in terms of levels and what's behind it. But I will come straight away to the next question. More concretely, have you ever self-assessed your technology-enhanced teaching via an online tool? So you now have heard in which countries these tools exist. Have you ever had the experience of doing so? Is there somebody who wants to speak to tell us about this experience? Okay.
So we have one participant that participated in the course that was run by European Schoolnet.
Yeah.
So he was assessed in the course.
Okay. But not really self-assessment. So it was something that we assessed or peer assessed. Okay. Yeah, self-assessment by an online tool, I think it's not really common yet. Okay. Then maybe let's come to the next question. Would you be interested, as we are developing this, it would be good to know if there is an interest in this kind of self-assessing your technology-enhanced teaching. I mean, some of you were clearly in favor of peer assessing, but would you be interested in self-assessing, so really judging yourself according to statements of where you are?
So the majority says yes.
Yeah, it's a little bit overlap with the question before. Yeah, if you're interested in being assessed. Okay, that's good. That's really good news that you would be using our tool at one point, trying it out, depending on how user-friendly and nice and meaningful we can make it. Okay, then let's go to the tool. Maybe not directly. I have looked at some of my colleagues' work in that area. She's also with me in the project, Caroline Kearney, and she did a workshop in for the eTwinning conference, and we were working also on this together. So there's a couple of tips from teachers in a specific project from eTwinning also coming for self-assessing, which is summarized in this slide. So try to concentrate on your strengths and be open to improve your weaknesses. So this is something really I want to emphasize. Such tool, at least the tool we want to develop, it's not to judge, but it's to help you to develop your competency in that area. And you have some nice examples here of statements. My digital competence is good and I'm enthusiastic to discover new possibilities. I know what I'm teaching and I do it quite well. I like to learn new things and enjoy taking part in lifelong learning processes. So yeah, this intrinsic motivation of constantly wanting to learn is certainly a condition to go to such a tool. Then another tip I found really interesting is really to take it as an opportunity to innovate in the teaching practice, because while you're doing such a test, you might come across areas that you think are further exploring. So it helps you to reflect on your teaching practice. You can identify areas of improvement. You will be able to maybe go analyze new tools and technologies by if you take up some resources you are pointed at after taking such a test, and concretely you can implement the new learning scenarios in your eTwinning project. So, but I see we only have like 20 minutes left. I need to urgently come to the MENTEP tool we want to develop. And here I just show you where we are at the moment. So we started the work in March. We have looked at the competency models and frameworks in place, because we really want to build a tool on something that already works in certain countries. Such a tool is really demanding to develop, so we want to also use items that have been already successfully be practiced, and that's the case in Norway and Opeka and tool in Finland, but also various good experiences in Estonia and Greece in that area, and Spain. So then we did an analysis and mapping exercise to define with the partners, which are mainly policymakers, and that's why it's so good I can talk to you today. So it's a little bit a top-down approach for the moment to identify the areas and sub-areas that should be part of that tool. And that was already a quite difficult exercise to agree on common areas that everybody thinks should be addressed to assess pedagogical competence of teachers. So these are, you see here, but now we are in the status that we are developing items and levels around these areas and sub-areas. And this is something I would like to share with you in the moment, because these are the areas also you can give us feedback on. So that's a draft of the tool as it stands today. It's not the final version, but here you can see the main areas we will try to tackle. It's about digital pedagogy, and here we have defined 3 distinguished areas. The first area is really how teachers plan and implement the teaching with ICT. So this is really ranging around, like, how do I design my learning with ICT? And already this area, as you can see, is quite a big area. So this will, for example, include, and I'm having the tool opening here, how do I develop ICT-supported teaching and learning? How do I implement it? How do I reflect on it? How do I design motivating and engaging learning activities with students? Also in this area, it's like, what is my attitude towards ICT in education? What is my standpoint in terms of how the use of ICT changes teaching and learning processes? In this area, in this first one, I'm only here, is also like how I can design maybe personalized activities supported by ICT for students. How can I design collaborative activities for students when using ICT? And also one important part here is like, how can I implement cross-curricular approaches with ICT? So that's the digital pedagogy 1.1, plan and implement. The second main area, sub-area we defined for this is how can a teacher design and manage ICT-based learning environments. And here we mean more, how is the teacher orchestrating, for example, a classroom where students have devices, mobile devices, laptops, tablets. How do they managing the learning environment, the virtual learning environment, more from a management point of view? That's mainly this second sub area. And then one important area is how do you use ICT to support your assessment? And as you all will know, this is also a quite complex area. So what is your attitude to assess with ICT? Can you already analyze and evaluate the suitability of ICT-based assessment tools according to learner needs? How do you plan, for example, formative assessment with ICT or summative assessment with ICT? Or how do you engage the learner in the reflection of learning? So I'm already out of breath. This is the first area, and it's the most complex one, but it's also the one that is at the core of our tool, the digital pedagogy. So the second one is really how teachers use digital resources and how they use it also for production. So it's a little bit more straightforward here, how you select and use digital resources, how you engage students, how do you yourself creatively produce learning resources and share them with students, your competencies in terms of copyright and licenses, and really hotly debated area was around programming. And I can already tell you it's not the main area of the tool, but we might have one question around that as well. The third and quite a big area is also how teachers communicate and collaborate with ICT. So what kind of technologies do you use? Not asking what kind of technologies you use, but your capacity in using different communication and collaboration tools, but also how you use these tools for sharing content and information. And this can be with students, with other teachers, with parents, so also kind of vast area. And a third sub-item is how how do you integrate online collaboration, online participation? So how you engage in teaching and learning through online participation. So how to search for opportunities that foster empowerment and self-development, and also being aware of the potential for online connections. But online participation might also mean how you engage as a teacher in professional practices, in communities of practices. And the last area is around digital citizenship and e-safety. And here also we want to take a quite positive approach, not like in how far the teacher can only prevent bad behavior of students on the internet, but also more managing this process to the competence to detect and respond to e-safety issues, the ability to manage one's own digital identity, but also to guide students in managing their digital identity, and protecting also personal data, but also guiding students in protecting their devices. And also here we have a last point, which is not the core of the tool, but which policymakers also think are important, like the impact of ICT on health and environment care. So this is roughly the main areas that we are working on. And of course, I would like to know, maybe not during the meeting today, but if you have any comments on if you think that these are the things that are really at the core of what we consider technology-enhanced teaching competence, or if you think it's too much and we should maybe just focus on a few, I would be really happy to know from you about this. Let me ask you another question. So you have seen the areas. I would wanted to know in which area do you feel most competent at the moment? Is it really in designing and learning and teaching with ICT, so the digital pedagogy area? Is it more that you are a teacher that is really competent in using digital tools, services, and also produce resources and share resources with your students? Are you a strong teacher in digital communication and collaboration? Or are you more on the digital citizenship and e-safety area? Do you feel like more competent in that area? This is really important to know for me, like in terms of the difficulty level of weighing the different complexity of the different areas. So please let me know in which area do you feel most competent. You have to decide for one, please. Quite evenly spread, except as regards the digital use and production and digital communication. And the thing, I'm surprised. I thought e-safety and digital citizenship would be something that you're really comfortable with. I'm not surprised about the digital pedagogy because it's really difficult. And the B and C are, of course, more practical and more concrete. Okay, that's really interesting because for this also we can have slight hints on how to the logic sequence of the tool. Thank you so much for that feedback. That was really important for me. And now let's have Tom tell us.
Yeah, Tom, your microphone is open, so you can speak.
Okay, right. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. In Ireland, we have an award system called Digital Schools of Distinction, which recognises excellence in integrating ICT into teaching and learning. And our school won that award this year, and it is recognised by our Department of Education, and it's partly sponsored by the private industry. We have Hewlett-Packard Ireland and Microsoft Ireland partly sponsoring this award. The school who There's an online assessment tool first, which each school has to fill in. And when you think you've reached the stage where you want to apply for the award, you must fulfill certain criteria, similar to what we saw with the MENTEP tool, and similar to the tools mentioned from the other countries like Estonia and Norway. And then when you have submitted your application, an outside assessor comes to your school and checks through the work which you say you have undertaken. And so you have an online self-assessment tool which is followed up by an inspection. And if you pass various tests, you will get the award, which is a nice award for a school. And the carrot is, in our case, each school receives a digital printer from Hewlett-Packard, a network printer, and a year's free printing, which is a very nice prize to get. So there's the satisfaction of reaching the standard required, plus the little carrot of the free printing for a year.
Yeah, there seems to be some incentives working and needed, as you say, for be it for the like the formal recognition from the country. I mean, from the standards that are set, but also some nice surprise. Thank you for the contribution, Tom. I will look into that. I've heard about it already, and also the countries I mentioned, they have. And we, even at European Schoolnet, schools also can apply for the e-safety label, for example. So, and also there are tools on our side as well to go for the self-assessing, like the immaturity of the school. What is new here is that really we want to look at something really for the teacher, so that the teacher looks at their own competence, and then of course the idea is also that the teacher using this tool will be able to relate to other teachers in the school, also to see where are other teachers and in which areas are they good, in which areas are they not so good. So you can use the self-assessment of your own competence for making some progress within the school in terms of the professional development needed. Also talking to your school head, saying, here, that's my profile. I would really think if even more teachers in our school feel there is a training need here, that we could set up something. So that's why our focus at the moment, without saying that these other things, they of course, it's all embedded in the school context, but here it's really the idea to develop something in the first place for the teachers, but that will be used in a school context. Let's go to the next slide, because I would like to have also your little bit of feedback on the levels, because as I said, these other tools, they have different levels, and we came up with these ones for the moment. And I quickly guide you through these, and it would be great if we still manage within this hour to get feedback on this. We came up with some experts around, and these are maybe not the final headings that will be used in the tool, but we distinguish between five levels. The first is, I'm really unfamiliar with using ICT in my teaching. I do not even consider it, and I apply more traditional practices without ICT. And this is really something that is no judgment at all, because we can have great teachers probably also not using ICT and using really interesting methods. But it's just like, this is like the first level for us, to teacher placing himself, not really using ICT. The second would be, I heard about it, so I partially integrated ICT in my teaching here and there. I consider using it once in a while, so there is some use of ICT and integration. The third level would be, I incorporate ICT already in my teaching on a more regular basis. I try it out and I believe in the benefits. The fourth level would be, I strategically use ICT in my teaching, so I really know when to use ICT for what purpose. and especially reflect on when to use it in the terms of when does it really benefit student needs and learning. So that's the level 4. And the 5th level we came up with is the expert level. I systematically reflect and evaluate my teaching practice with ICT. And based on this reflection and use, I aim to improve learning and teaching practices constantly. So these are 5 levels, and it's we will have to describe the different competences around these 5 levels. And I just wanted to have a quick feedback. I think it's not easy because you really need to dig into it a little bit. But if you look at these levels, do you think that they are clearly distinguished? Maybe there are too many. Maybe it's just good to have 1, 2, 3 in beginning, intermediate, advanced, or would you opt for a system where you can actually have more distinguished areas? So I hope you were able to cover what's in the different levels, and just a quick feedback from you. Do you think the 5 levels are clear? They make sense to you and are clearly distinguished? Or no, they are not really clearly distinguished, so which would mean that we also need to go back a little bit and see how we can make them more clearly. Okay, that's great. That's great that they already make kind of sense to you. No answer probably also a lot because it's difficult to quickly grasp, like in such a situation. You probably need to go and read through them and also have the examples with it. But okay, I'm really pleased that you all also see what we mean with it, that we are not going in the wrong direction completely. That's good. So thank you so much for that result, and I take the opportunity to finalize really the exercise, because we'll not be able to go through all of it, to give you an example statement for maybe 2 levels. So I've chosen the digital pedagogy. And in the pedagogy, I have taken from the tool, because it's already quite big, the ICT supported assessment. And here, I give you the examples, statements. The teacher who is self-assessing would be needed to position himself. So first level, or first statement in the tool would be according to ICT supported assessment. I usually give assessments on paper or orally, whether it is formative or summative assessment. Let me see. So here it was really about asking in how far you the ability to plan and implement ongoing and formative assessment with ICT, which is redefined as one subcompetence. The second would be, I know a few ICT-based assessment tools and use them now and then for summative and or formative assessments. The third level, the can-use level, I combine formative and summative assessment methods and relevant ICT-based assessment tools. The fourth one is I use and adapt ICT-based assessment tools according to learners' needs for formative and summative assessment. And the expert level would be, you see the sentences get longer. I analyze and evaluate the suitability of the used evaluation method and tool, considering learners' needs, learning environments, and study goals. So my question is, and it's challenging because you don't really are in front of the tool, you have no time to read it really. Would you be able to position yourself easily in these areas? Also, I leave it up to Ruth to set up the poll, and so go back and think, if you have to fill in such a form, would you be able to position yourself in one of the levels? Great, some positive feedback here that you would be able to position yourself, and some not. We are fully aware also that we still need to make it really clear, but that's an answer. That's good that you can identify or you position yourself in that. Thank you. But still, 20 also, they don't know yet, so we need to be more clear maybe. I will finalize this with just a last example around the digital use and production. It's quite concrete. It should be easy for you. It's about copyright and licenses. I'll read them quickly through. I hope you stay with us for that. The unfamiliar is I don't know much about how copyright and licenses apply to information and content. Second level, I understand how copyright and licenses apply to information and content. The can use is really I use licenses correctly on content I create or find and share. Then the more advanced level would be I teach about it, intellectual property rights, and also about Creative Commons to my students. And expert knowledge would be, or expert intellectual property rights are a key element when I teach my students about the activities on the internet. So if you give us here also a final statement about if you think these are clear and good, that would be great. A little bit the same as in the previous, quite clear to around 40 people, but still some who cannot really say. And for 2, it's not clear. Okay, that's a result I can take further. Thank you so much for that. I will not give you examples for the other areas because I already have foreseen that this will be a little bit too long. In view of so that's I think the last poll. Now you have seen a little bit the areas. I would like to come back. Which area do you now consider most challenging? We had a kind of similar question before I presented the tool, and I would like to see what is the most challenging area now that you've been able to look a little bit into competence descriptors, if it's the same picture or not. I've asked you what is the most easy, now what's the most challenging? Maybe we can get a consensus about that one. And that's the last poll. So which of these 4 areas do you think are most challenging to be competent in?
So the majority is saying digital pedagogy. So I'm now closing the poll.
Yes, so that's confirming my my assumption, my hypothesis. It really is also something we think is the most difficult because it's not so clear-cut. It's a complex area involving many things. So this will be the big challenge for us also to come up with questionnaire items that really make sense to you, that fit to your educational practice, and that we can also give you feedback on via the tool on where you could develop in this. Also, of course, I have to say the limits of such a self-assessment is that it's based on your opinion, and there must be in the future also maybe trying to see how we can provide evidence, and that's where the peer learning is so interesting, I think, of this kind of what you think is you are good at or not. So we are also looking into that as a kind of accompanying measure, so to say. I would like to thank you so much for your feedback and give the floor to you in terms of feedback you have in general on such a tool we are developing on digital competence, what is going on in your country, and also maybe why would you do such a self-assessing tool at all? Would it be if you can relate results to certification in your country? Would you actually do it just for your intrinsic development and professional development? So what would be a little bit the triggers or incentives for you to use such a self-assessing tool? So I leave the final word to you. I'm happy for any comments and suggestions and critics. If you are interested to test the tool, you can send me an email. I would be great if some teachers would spend a little bit more time in testing the tool and giving us feedback. But now the floor is yours, and if you have any comments, please share them with us, I hope in the last 5 minutes. would be
You can
great.
raise your hand and we can give you the floor like we did with Tom. So if you want to share something else, and of course, Tom, you are more than welcome to participate again. Thank you, Anja. I'm not sure if you want to add something else.
No, just also have a look at the project website and come back to me if you want to be involved in one way or the other. As I said, the experimentation will be with schools that are randomly selected, but it's your chance now also to test the tool and give us feedback. That's something that will maybe come in your country, so you were part of it. So that would be great. And that would be probably taking us now in December and January already to finalize it and put it online for like our project testing. But I would like to thank everybody, and I hope to get comments in the chat. And thank you for this opportunity and interest in that topic. Thank you.
I think you'll get a lot of emails, Anja.
That would
Everybody.
be great.
Everybody is very interested on it.
To find it will involve some work, you know, because I want to have some comments. But that's great if I can have interested teachers.
So thank you all for being here today. The next seminar will be next week, and you can have more information on eTwinning Live. Thank you, Anja, again, for sharing this experience with us. I'm sure you will get a lot of contacts from these wonderful teachers. And we can foresee in the future some other ways of sharing this information with eTwinning teachers as well. Yeah. So thank you all. I won't take you too long, and thank you for being here for extra 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Good.
See you soon in another webinar.
And Christmas from my side already.